Bubbly Steve is available for pre-order at shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. You've got less than a month to pre-order this 15-inch plushie. Check them out. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am not here with Geeky Sparkles. I'm flying solo on this video, but we're going to talk about the anime industry. And even though anime has seen a massive uptick in popularity over the last couple of years here in the West and globally, apparently anime industry sales fell in 2020 for the first time in a decade. So this is really interesting because everything we've heard so far seems to point to anime blowing up, there being this incredible demand for anime content. We had Sony rushing to buy Crunchyroll. I don't know exactly what they bought, to be honest. The rights to, I guess, a lot of shows they didn't have on Funimation, but they paid $1 billion, over $1 billion for Crunchyroll. And we've got Netflix producing anime, we've got Disney producing anime, and actually, I'm going to be completely honest, I think the Star Wars Vision's anime, actually, some of it looks pretty decent. Some of it looks like a bunch of weird-ass furry stuff, but some of it actually looks pretty decent. But, with all this going on, you would think the industry is doing better, especially with Demon Slayer blowing up the box office last year. Apparently that's not the case. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the cost to produce anime. And it's not cheap, but it's actually less expensive than producing Western animation, if you can believe that. And I think a lot of it has to do with the voice talent over here in the West, because they always pay these celebrities to voice characters. And you're talking, $100,000 episode winds up costing $500,000 or $1 million by the time you get done paying the cast of The Simpsons or whatever, right? I don't know. So we're going to talk about it. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 231,000 subs. Thank you for the support. We do talk a lot about the animation industry, being cartoon fans ourselves, believe it or not, we are. And we're actually fans of Western cartoons, despite what people say about us. We don't like all Western cartoons, but we do like a lot of them. And we're also fans of anime, fans of comic books. Whatever interests us that day is what we talk about. And we do talk a lot about the business side of making art and making animation and comic books. So this was on Cartoon Brew last night, and it was very interesting because this kind of is a stark contrast to everything we've heard, which is anime is blowing up and there's such a demand for anime and all of that. Now, we have heard that animators are not getting paid as well as they should be given the popularity, but apparently the finances aren't where you would think they would be. So coming from Cartoon Brew, report anime industry sales fell in 2020 for their first time in a decade. Sales in Japan's anime industry fell 1.8% in 2020, according to a new report by market research firm Teikoku Databank. You can read it in Japanese here. I'm not going to do that. We'll just trust Cartoon Brew to give us an accurate translation. The industry sales reached 251.1 billion yen, 2.3 billion last year, down from a record 255.7 billion yen in 2019, says the report, which based its figures on the revenue at 300 surveyed production companies. Now, some of that could be because the pandemic. Put a halt on some production. Oh, there we go. This drop puts an end to 9 straight years of growth. The report blames production and release delays caused by COVID, as well as a decline in the number of TV anime shows being made. That's interesting because everybody is rushing to make their own anime now. In fact, Adult Swim announced that they were going to be co-producing anime again. Disney's making anime for Disney Plus. We've got HBO Max producing anime, Netflix producing quote-unquote anime, but there's a decline. Now, if you've been following this, it does seem like Japanese studios prefer to get TV series onto Japanese TV networks and not streamers. In fact, the problem, as I understand it, with Netflix is that they don't pay very well, and they don't pay for a series until it's complete. in a lot of cases. So these studios have to take out, loans to be able to pay their people until Netflix decides they want to pay, and that's not very good for business. And there's also a lot of deals to be made if you're on network TV, I guess, toy deals and video game merch and food tie-ins and all that jazz. So that is a big part of it. So if the series isn't getting picked up by a network television station, then, they're probably not making as much money off of that show, because Netflix is like, okay, we binged it, now we're done. The fall in overall revenue comes despite the release of Demon Slayer, the movie Mugen Train. Average sales per production company came in at 831 million yen, falling for the first time in 4 years. So per company, 7.6 million. Large companies with their own IP generally fared better, as they could depend on revenue from streaming and other licensing. Overall, 31.6% saw their sales rise, while 48.6% saw them fall. In terms of profit, 31.1% reported an increase and 29% had a drop in profits. Nearly 38% of the companies suffered losses last year. Meanwhile, anime is globalizing. Of the 300 companies, 68 reported that they have struck business deals with China. China was the most common international partner, followed by South Korea and the US. So China, which this doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, we've talked about that before, Tencent getting more involved in anime and manga production, anime style video games, a lot of MMORPGs are, definitely anime style or anime influenced, and they're produced by Chinese companies. Tokyo continues to dominate the industry. The capital is home to 270 of the surveyed companies. Small companies are the most common, with 109 posting revenue of 100 million yen or $910,000 or less, and 96 having 5 employees or fewer. The number of companies founded since 2000 stands at 190. The report also sounds warnings about systemic issues in the industry. Now, this is what's interesting. It notes that problems around employment and productivity persist in Japanese studios, then adds the quality of Chinese animation is rapidly improving, with companies securing top-flight animators, often by offering better pay than Japanese studios and acquiring know-how by investing in Japanese productions. This is kind of what's going on in Hollywood right now. And we know the Chinese are pushing very hard into animation. They love animation over there. In fact, we were surprised that of all the movies that Disney was able to finally get through to China, they got Luca through. Luca didn't even get a US theatrical release. These companies could soon rival their Japanese counterparts for supremacy in the industry, the report suggests. As a result, the anime bubble of the 2010s may burst, just as a slump in DVD sales ended a previous boom in 2007. If Japan's industry is to thrive, the report concludes that there will have to be urgent investment in talent and technological resources. So China's coming for your anime. They're pulling away Japanese creators, and why wouldn't they? I mean, if they're not getting paid well in Japan, why wouldn't they go someplace else? People got to look out for themselves. You got to look out for their families, right? Who am I kidding? If you're working as an animator in Japan, chances are you don't have time for a family, nor do you have the money to pay for a family, because it's just the hours are grueling. In November, the Association of Japanese Animators published the latest edition of its annual anime industry report, which stated the anime industry grew to $24 billion, all-time high in 2019. But yeah, it seems like Japan's going to lose ground to China, because China's got deeper pockets to pay Japanese production companies to make stuff for them. Meanwhile, we've got Netflix trying to get in on it, and it's very hit or miss. They're trying to create a global anime industry, that basically, as I understand it, kowtows to the sensibilities of California, kind of like what Crunchyroll is doing with the Crunchyroll originals. And it looks like Adult Swim is kind of like, no, we're gonna create our own stuff. So let's talk about what it costs to make an episode of an anime. Now, this is very general, because there is a lot of upfront production cost and character designs and all this other stuff that goes into it. It's not just you cut a check for that amount of money and that's what it costs. So this is coming from Fandom Wire. This was a couple days ago. And I thought it was pretty interesting. Dragon Ball Z, 50 to 60,000 per episode. Now, again, these are shows from the 90s, so you got to figure inflation. But back in the day, it was 50 to 60,000 per episode. Evangelion, 60,000 per episode. Evangelion back in the day was a very expensive show. The movies are very expensive. They're very expensive. I don't know how expensive they are because they use a lot of CG now, but they are more expensive than the run-of-the-mill anime. One Punch Man, again, more current show, 70 to 80,000 per episode. And I don't think the animation on One Punch Man is all that spectacular. So, this is probably one of the lower end of the popular current year shows. Demon Slayer, 80,000 per episode. Some of them go as high as 90 an episode. That doesn't surprise me at all. Now, what's interesting is Demon Slayer, UFO Table, which is known for its amazing action scenes and animation, it's less than One Piece. One Piece is 90,000 an episode, according to Anime News Network. 10 million yen, $90,000. Again, though, there's a lot of shared expenses. That's kind of oversimplifying because you have to do character, a lot of pre-production work and all that stuff. But basically, it breaks down to 90,000 an episode. Naruto, 90 to 100,000 an episode. My Hero Academia, 110,000 per episode. Study was recently conducted by Media Development Research Institute for My Hero Academia. The studio refused to quote a number. The independent study revealed the approximate price is $110,000. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is more expensive than that, $120,000. It could be because we're dealing with more detailed character designs. I don't know. Some are higher. Studio refuses to release official numbers. Black Clover, 140,000 an episode. Jujutsu Kaisen, 150,000 an episode. Attack on Titan, 150,000 to 160,000 per episode. Bleach, 160,000 an episode. Dragon Ball Super, 180,000. Death Note, what? How did we jump up to, whoa, what? Death Note. So we go from Dragon Ball Super, 180,000 episode, to Death Note, $1 million an episode? The cult classic anime series has found mainstream success, has a whopping $40 million overall budget. That puts its per episode at more than $1 million. Not even a normal live action TV show would cost as much in Hollywood. That doesn't seem right. I don't know. That doesn't seem right. That really seems off. I could believe maybe a little more than Dragon Ball, but who knows? That's basically, you're talking, and we always ballpark it. We always tell people we think it's between 100 and 200,000 an episode for a current year anime series. And that does seem to be about where things are at. And again, that's an oversimplification of it because there is a lot of pre-production work that goes into it. You're just taking the entire budget of the whole series and breaking it down per episode. It's 13 episodes, take the budget, break it into 13 chunks. That's approximately what it costs. But there are, like, if you were going to go do an episode of an anime yourself, if you had infinite money, you're going to probably have more upfront costs than the $100,000 because there's all this pre-production work that goes into it. Anyway, so there we are, guys. That's interesting. And again, speaking of Hollywood, CCG sent this over, one of our tipsters, that the Gantz creator says he's not going to create any new anime until Hollywood gives him the rights to his series back. Yeah, Hollywood is coming in and strip mining anime. That's what's so weird about it. And that's what they want. They want these studios to produce this content for them relatively cheap. And then they're going to come in, swoop in, take the rights, and then just completely mess everything up. But yeah, the series creator talked to Crunchyroll, and this is Hiroyu Oku. Oku candidly spoke about the long-rumored American Gantz live-action remake. In the interview, he stated that a contract with a Hollywood production company is preventing future anime adaptations of his work, saying, I can't talk about all the details, but a Hollywood company does have the rights to adapt it at the moment. And unless they return the rights to us, we won't be able to make either an anime or a live-action adaptation of the manga. That's the Hollywood type of contract. They own all the adaptations, including anime and live action, except for manga. That is 100% true. We can tell you as people who have had our own stuff optioned, they do tie up the rights to that particular IP. And if you go out and try to do something else, do an end run around them, it's not going to go very well for you. You're allowed to do the comics, but you're not allowed to they get live action rights a lot of times as live action and animation and potentially video games or whatever the deal is. But you can still make your comic book or whatever, but they're not going to let you go cut another deal until they decide whether or not they want to use your property. And sometimes they can tie it up for years. In our case, I think we had like a 2 or 5 year option, and they had to produce something within 2 or 5 years. And if they didn't do that, then the rights got reversed, and they did revert the rights back to us completely, but they will sit on your property. And I've heard of them sitting on comics properties for like 10 years, so you can't do anything with it. You can make more manga. They don't care about that because that's not competing with what they're doing. But yeah, they'll tie up everything for years, and then at the end of it, a lot of times they won't even do it. So it's kind of crazy. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. It was very interesting to hear about this, though. And again, I think COVID probably is a big reason as to why. But it's going to be interesting to see with the increased demand in anime if they actually start paying their animators better. I don't think they're going to, though. They're getting a really good deal. I don't think they're going to. Going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.